You're watching YCN, your local view. Program airtime is underwritten in part by Bar Harbor Bank and Trust. Looking to purchase your dream home, finance your business, or just find a better checking relationship? Our New Hampshire team is here to help you. We make award-winning banking happen every day. Contact us to see how we can help you. Member FDIC.
Well, welcome back to Cougar Chronicle.
Oh my gosh, I hope you had the most glorious holiday Christmas break.
We got to spend a minute or two together over the vacation. It was so nice to see
I really
a wonderful
appreciate the
family.
invite. My family was very excited. My kids, hopefully they didn't terrorize too much stuff.
My gosh.
They walked back. They were 100% asleep by the time we had hit the bottom of your road, so we were worn out.
It was a joyous holiday, wasn't it? And now the New Year's here.
Well, and for us coming in from Missouri, I think my wife and I had talked about it, I think this was our first white Christmas in about 10 years. So to be able to experience that wonderful New England holiday and all the things that come with it,
Exactly.
Found the most obnoxiously large tree that I could. Which of course is an important thing for the males in my family, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And
with family, friends, and did we have a busy start to our new year?
Well, as you know, we're coming in a little later than we normally do. Luckily we live in a community that adjusts as it needs for the needs of our friends and our team.
And our immediate team, Lisa and Greg, Doreen, Michael, everyone who puts the show together. We're so flexible because we had some ups and downs and things we just couldn't get the show on time.
Everybody's healthy now, everybody's doing well, so we're getting back on track. So this is, rather than being the first Thursday of the month, this is the January episode, so it may come in a little bit later,
right?
But we'll kind of go forward from there. But I am so excited about the guests that we have today.
Big show, right?
Oh, as always, a great big show. So Pare will be one of our guests. He's our director of facilities, as we've mentioned before. We've got that long-term facility study that we're going to talk about and bring and kind of get some more information updates on that. Really excited because I know you love the littles. Got Nikki Robertson, who's our preschool director, going to come in and talk early childhood special ed and how those programs look like. And then would any show be complete without Michael Bessette, our assistant superintendent? Another great thing to talk about. Obviously, as we're filming, deliberative session has taken place. What an amazing setup. And so Michael's going to be here to help us debrief that a little bit, kind of what the district looks like moving forward, what are next steps. That's important. And kind of going from there. And then I think, I don't know, maybe I'm getting a question or two. We'll see
you do. I have them. Now people are sending them to me. I haven't even given out my address and I'm getting them.
Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
so I have.
Love that.
Do I have questions for you?
Oh, can't wait. But we're excited to be with you guys, and we'll get rolling with this.
Yeah, we'll be back with Cougar Chronicle. Stay with us. Well, welcome to Cougar Chronicle. Oh, and we are back this
with
January.
Our first guest of the new year.
One of my favorite guests.
Well, because we're talking about the little ones,
Absolutely.
and I know you love that. And I cannot say enough about the quality of people that we have in positions of leadership, and in our classrooms, in our athletic fields, in our schools, and this is just another person in the big thing. And I will tell you personally, I have joked about, I was always a secondary guy.
Right.
That was my career. But from the beginning of my educational career, I've always believed in the importance of early intervention.
Without a doubt.
And part of that is being the father of two kids that have mental health and with a child with addiction issues. Not to know if there's things that we could have done sooner that would have made a difference, but you always want to make sure that those opportunities are there. And when we talk about the ability to learn, because accessing education is a very big and important piece. And so our next guest, which is Nikki Robertson, who's so excited to be here, glad to have her, fills multiple roles. She's an associate director within our special ed department, our student services department, but also, and why she's here today, under duress, is to talk about our pre-K program, our early childhood special ed program, and really just kind of highlight, as you remember, and some of our guests may remember, we just had an expansion within the last year of our pre-K school at Bradford. We've added the trailers there. We have I can still call it the James House, which I get the look there.
Too, it's bad. I know.
It's the numbers involved. But we have 2 sites. She's responsible for staffing and development and growth of those things. So when we talk, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
We're glad you're here today.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Anytime. So let's talk pre-K. So pre-K is twofold. We have the early childhood special ed part, and then we have the pre-K program.
Yes.
So where do you want to start? Where's the easiest place for you to begin, you think?
So I'm happy to start talking about the special education component that we provide for students, which is federally mandated.
Okay.
Starting at age 3, any child that's identified as having some type of a developmental disability or need, the school district picks up services for students in that capacity. And so in our program, we have an early childhood program, which is a regular ed program by nature, in which then we provide services to children receiving special education services. So our teachers are dual certified. They carry specialization in early childhood as well as early childhood special education. So really, we're trying to create a nice early learning environment for kids to build on those developmental skills such as communication, motor, and to really help develop in that environment where they can do it alongside children who do not experience delays.
And Nikki made an important point. It starts at age 3.
Yeah. Yes.
So if my little one, and I say, oh my goodness, is the language where it needs to be, I can call the district and say, help.
Yeah, so we do screen a lot of children in the district as well. We'll have families from our local providers if they're in childcare, or pediatricians that have some questions or wonderings. Our staff is always available to talk about what are those developmental milestones for communication as well as motor. Sometimes we have questions around social emotional development, so how kids are, navigating those situations with other children their same age, play skills, self-help. So we work on toilet training, all things early childhood that help kids kind of move along and grow in those areas.
I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that they do.
It's amazing.
But let's take a step back from it. Why is that important? Why is it important? I know it's federally mandated, but we joke about this. Why am I spending money on a 3-year-old? As a taxpayer, why is that valuable and important?
So for that early education piece, there's a lot of research that shows as you start to foster and help develop those skills in young children, it really then helps them launch their career as they get older as a learner, right? So you think about some of those early developmental milestones for speaking. Kids are little sponges at those ages, and so they find creative ways. We get a lot of children that come in that have some interesting ways to help communicate and get their needs met. Sometimes it's functional, sometimes it's not. And so working on those skills when they're really young and kind of helping build, it really lays that foundation for the things that they need to be able to do as they grow, whether it be at home, in their communities, and then of course at school as well. So, working on closing those developmental gaps when they're younger really helps them. A lot of kids that we provide services and supports to either come out of special education because those gaps have closed and they just go back on a regular traditional learning trajectory, or we can start laying that foundation so that is less of a thing to take on as they get older, and transition onto kindergarten and beyond.
And Laura, there's been a ton of research and we've seen different numbers, that for every dollar that gets invested in early childhood,
right,
in the pre-K program, it's a crazy number. $15 to $18 is the return on the investment.
Isn't that amazing?
And one is how do we understand that? But again, it's that ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure.
Right.
Is let's get these things identified sooner, because when we look at brain development, we look at morphology and just how kids really kind of learn and grow, you have this malleability of the human brain at those early ages, that if we can get things going sooner, then we've got a chance to maybe make the trajectory. I can tell you from a personal standpoint, my granddaughter, who's in Bradford as a second grader, had an IEP for language in pre-K, and through their interventions in place was able to close that gap.
It's amazing.
And so,
it really is.
I live those things every day.
And what's wonderful, and the little secret is that as you're doing this, you're also introducing the curriculum to them.
Yes.
So when they hit kindergarten, they hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
is
we spend
great.
a lot of time in early childhood just helping kids. We call it following the group plan, right? Everybody has their own plan. What does it mean to follow the group plan and be part of a collective group of students who are trying to problem solve and navigate a classroom environment? Our preschool is all play-based learning, so we're really looking at opportunities for literacy and numeracy development within the environment, things that they're already experiencing, and then expanding on that. Our goal really is to help foster that love for learning, that curiosity to then be able to go on and continue to want to learn new things and experience new things.
Well, and funny enough, curiosity is one of our 3 tenets for our portrait of a learner.
Love that.
With conscientious,
that's right. Okay.
Conscientious, curious, and caring. As we look at those things, so those pieces in. And you also think about the things that a lot of times kids don't get access to, like how to ride on a school bus or how to stand in line. The number
Those
of
are big
kids,
skills.
Well, and you know this as a kindergarten teacher, the amount of time that gets spent trying to get those processes in place. If we can have kids exposed to those things, of saying please and thank you, for self-advocacy for toileting needs or I'm hungry or whatever the case is. I mean, there's so much more than just the academic piece. I mean, the overall health and just wonderful development of that child as soon as we can get in. I mean, and it just provides those great places. And when the partnership that you get to build with families is valuable.
Yes. Yeah, we do enjoy getting to know our families, the young ones that come in, and sometimes it's nice we get the siblings, so we'll have some families and it's their second or third child that we've had come through our program, or we're the introduction to the school district, which can be really good opportunity, especially for families of children with disabilities, to start that connection early, and build that relationship as they start their journey with us as a school district.
And what's really cool about Kearsarge? We've made it easier. Now we have the 2 locations. It was always New London.
Yes.
Right. We were jokingly referring to James House.
You may not want and for our,
coming from
Warner or
oh
from
gosh.
Sutton or Bradford. I mean, it's quite the haul.
Yes.
Now we have that second location.
Yep.
Yes, down in Bradford. Yeah, that was a lot of work went into kind of putting that expansion in, and that was one thing we heard pretty loud and clear from the community, that it was difficult for families in the southern tier of our district to access our preschool programming in the northern section.
Because I understand too that we are only providing transportation to the IEP students.
Yes.
So if you're in the general ed, we're not providing that. And so which is why having that second location becomes very important, and the expansion. And it really is the Bradford playground. This is the big kid in me. When I was interviewing and we were getting around and toured the Bradford place, I noticed the giant pirate ship for the other kids, and the exact same, the smaller, the mini pirate ship behind the fence for those kids as well. And it's just a great space, and the teachers do such a great job as we look at things like that. Now, this episode's in February, so right now we're in the middle of signing families up for the new year.
Yes.
Are we seeing are we having to go and struggle to try to fill these classrooms?
No.
What's going on there? How are we staffing?
So it's very funny. To prevent having a significant wait list, because there are some families, our local community centers will start a wait list early, and so for families who think about this much earlier than others, it can make it a little harder for families to get into a program. So we start accepting applications January 1st for the following school year. Okay. And so our thing went live January 1st, and within the first 24 hours, we had already had 24 applications. I believe as of today, we're up to 45 for the 2 locations. So a huge, huge interest in those early childhood services in our community.
And how do we? And so for a family that's moving in, or they're not really sure what's going on, they didn't realize that we even offered this until now. How do they get in touch with the pre-K program or you? What's the best way?
So there on our website we have there's a live application, so it's a request for enrollment that can be filled out with all of the necessary information that we need to collect in order to consider enrollment for school. So it's all right on our website. They can also call us at either of the 2 preschool locations, and again, all that information is on the website.
So via voice, via email, just get a hold of you. It's wonderful.
And they're ready to help, and they're excited for kids. I mean, it's just You know, watching them do, you know, I just have so much fun watching little kids do. They're walking up and down the hallways, you see them in lines, and just the, you know,
the enthusiasm.
Oh my gosh, they're so excited to be wherever they're at.
Well, and Nikki, this is why I was so excited you were coming in today, because I reaped the benefits of your efforts as a kindergarten teacher. And the children would come in and be happy and well-adjusted and anxious and excited about learning.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. Very important work. So thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate all
that.
you do. Yes,
Any last words? Anything you want to leave with people, or are you just kind of like, let's end the segment and move on? She's ready to roll. Well,
so
thanks so much for everything
and
you do.
we appreciate all you do, and it's easy, right? Via email, just make a call, and
it's all, and that's the accessibility. You really don't have to look hard to find the information. Go to the website, all the information's there, and if you have problems, then make a phone call and we'll walk you through it. I know that's been the case.
Yes.
Well, Nikki, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Coming up, we're talking facilities.
Facilities, talking with Brett Pare, our facilities director, who you've met before and did an interview with before.
Does great work.
Very important person, and really, I mean, is the backbone, that unsung hero.
Oh,
that
yeah,
keeps things up and rolling, and his team. So we'll get a chance to talk kind of facility pieces after the fact of the deliberative session. Kind of some of the questions that we have been asked there. What does that mean? You know, in-depth facility study that's going on, and just really kind of asking them some questions. And again, as we always do, we pull the curtain back on the wonderful things that happen every day here in Kearsarge.
Absolutely. And we're glad you're joining us for Cougar Chronicle. All that coming up, so stay with us.
See you soon. All right.
Well, welcome back to Cougar Chronicle. And did I have fun talking about little ones?
You and the little ones,
I
tell you.
enjoy them.
So, real funny story, real quick.
Okay.
So, I'm in my first superintendency in Missouri. I'd been a secondary guy my entire career.
Right.
High school principal, high school assistant principal, high school
difference.
teacher, alternative school teacher with older kids. I mean, I've been around everything. And I remember, you know, you spend a lot of time in the schools, and great teaching is great teaching. But I remember spending the first week of school when I was a superintendent, going to the elementary, and when the kids were there. And all of a sudden, randomly, this kid comes up and hugs my leg. And I'm standing with the elementary principal, and I'm like, Brian was there. I'm like, Brian, why is he hugging me? Why? And he's like, and you're like, because he wants to say hello. And you're like, hello, little buddy. So kind of one of those moments.
It's a different experience. It really is.
But it evolved to me dressing up and me driving the bus of those guys to the pumpkin patch and all that stuff. So once you had to get past the initial fear, ensure there wasn't any snot or anything on your pants, and then you move on.
And change your clothes every day in school.
Always move on. So
listen, I wanted to leave before this segment because I was so embarrassed. We have our head of our facilities, Brett, coming in, and when I interviewed him for one of our other shows, I said your last name wrong the whole time.
Okay.
So I just I go like this.
Well, don't you pronounce it, because then I'll pronounce it wrong, probably on purpose. But Brett Pare is our director of facilities, and the linchpin of making sure that we have everything going on.
Big job.
Big vision, big things in place. I know he's so excited to talk, as a lot of our captive audience people. So thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate that. Brett does such a great job, and I
truly
we spend a lot of time. I have a beautiful opportunity to really delve in deep in the relationships and work hand in hand with a lot of folks. And my background with my dad was a facilities guy, so not that I have an opinion on everything that Brett did.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, Dad was, my father's a retired facilities guy, so was a maintenance manager, big companies. Doesn't mean that I have all the answers, but I have a pretty good idea when he's trying to snow me on something. And so we go from there, but give a lot of trouble. But Brett does a phenomenal job, him and his team. You've got Scott Lanier, who's the assistant associate director, and then we have Shannon, who is working with you guys, is pretty much the glue that holds the group together, and everything go from there. The reason I wanted Brett to come in is so we just come out of deliberative session. We had questions on roofing structure, and there's always facility things, and so we really wanted to kind of address some of those facility pieces. We have the long-term, in-depth, I don't know what even to call it, it's like a microscope work with the LaValle Brensinger, the architectural group, that's really trying to look at all the buildings. Had Brett talk to us a little bit about some of that stuff, kind of dive into why things cost so much and why maybe some things aren't moving forward that people thought they might be. So I threw a whole bunch of stuff on the table.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
To
Yeah,
pass
it's a
out.
big
We got
job.
oxygen ready.
Big job, lots of buildings, lots of stuff.
Brett, let's start first with the deliberative piece. One of the things that had come up was a question on the trust, on the roofing trust, and wondering about the repair and replacement, that $1 million wasn't going to do that.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about the state of our roofs right now.
Yeah, so 2 summers ago, we did a comprehensive roof study throughout the entire district just to kind of see where we are and what we needed to plan for in the future. And when those results came back, every roof in the district, it was suggested that within the next 3 to 5 years, we really should be putting new roofs on all these schools. So that's one of the biggest pieces of what we're trying to address moving forward.
It's a lot more than $1 million.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And we had $1 million planned out for just trying to do repair work on the high school roof.
Gotcha.
And that, what did we find out there?
Yeah, I think it's difficult when we have these roofs that are as old as they are, because it kind of dominoes into all aspects of the building. At the high school, for example, when we talk about replacing the roof, that then is, we have to replace all the rooftop units that are on there because of the age and the complexity of pulling them off and putting them back on. And then that'll trigger other things within the building, such as fire alarm systems. So really, when you tackle something as big as a roof, it's going to kind of snowball into a lot of other areas within the building, and that's where those costs kind of, go up significantly.
As a homeowner, you take the roof off and you're finding rot or you're finding mold, or that's kind of scary.
But what doesn't happen is when you replace your roof, you can do the underneath work, but you don't have state inspector coming in going, the pitch of that roof needs to be adjusted for the place. And so those are the things that we're running in, is that we're coming up to new codes that we have to adapt. So when we look at the structure and we look at those roof pieces, one of the conversations that Brett and I had is, we know we have a leaking roof at the high school. But if we fix the leaking roof, because we have a leaking roof because of drainage and because of heat loss, especially in the wintertime. But if I fix the insulation so it doesn't, the snow stays on, now I've got to worry about snow load, and we have additional costs. So things of like, which is where when we say, okay, $1 million repair project really is a $6 to $10 million rebuild of the whole roof.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we run into, because when you work on, you patch your roof, you have a roofer come in and they do that. You fix things up to that housing code, but these industrial codes are so different, especially when we're talking school buildings.
And they change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have to meet the new code, not grandfather to the old ones.
Yeah.
And so we look at things like that. So, but Transition LaValle Brensinger is a group that we engaged with last spring to do a study. Real quick, what are they doing? Where are we at?
Yeah, so we're about halfway through a 2-year, we've referred to it as the comprehensive facilities review in the district. So for the last almost year now, we've really been diving into kind of the behind the scenes stuff. So we've had, structural, civil, mechanical engineers throughout all of our buildings, which has got us to a point where we have, a draft of what do these buildings look like and where do we need to go from here. So I think right now we're in a really pivotal time where we're looking at what we need to do to keep these buildings, safe, secure, and getting them to where we want them to be for the next 20 years. So I think there's still a lot of conversations, what does that look like? But we're definitely finding that a lot of these buildings do need a good amount of work.
It's not easy.
It's not. And you're talking you have a historic building in Warner, the old regional high school. You look at the building of Sutton, and then obviously even the newest building at the middle school is an aging building, and so it's consistent upkeep. I'm finding out quickly that the winters can be a little tough here in New Hampshire. I grew up in New York, so they were tough there too, but there's consistent upkeep on a lot of those items. And the piece that we run into is, as we look at some needing on expansion, not necessarily people want to look at expansion because of population, but we have program needs and statutory needs that we need to expand out with occupational therapy and preschool. Our preschool numbers are blowing up, as Nikki had talked about. And so we look at a lot of those things. We need that width room to grow. Up is hard because it becomes a whole roofing issue. And so we look at things like that. And the piece of it is we're kind of in a place, always transparently, we've got, about another 2 years before we make our final payment on the middle school bond issue. So then that gives us a time to, one is to inform the public of what we're finding and everything will be transparent as we go through, visioning session of what the next moves could be. And then as we look at it, we brought in experts to say, what are some suggestions to do? We're talking about a school district that's almost a third of the size of Rhode Island that runs the thing we do. How do we match up the needs of our community with the resources we have available?
Yeah, and I think our goal is not to have the shiniest, fanciest new building, but really just looking at when the majority of our mechanical equipment is 20, 25 years old, and you have a serviceable life that's 20 to 25 years old. We're in a spot where we've really got to make sure that we can get these needs
safety,
addressed,
right,
so we're
right.
not in a situation where we don't have heat or something like that. So I think that's the biggest focus, is just making sure we can sustain for the next 20 years with what we have.
It's all sustainable.
Absolutely overwhelming, though. I mean, that's a big, and these are our buildings.
Yes.
Right? So that's where a lot of the costs come in, a lot of the,
And that's not even preventative maintenance. What's happening when Brett came on is it's not the preventative maintenance, the little things of like minor tuck pointing or things like that. Brett's been dealing with stuff that like for boiler units that are 5 to 10 years out of end of service. And so, and it's not, again, when you're talking about, it's not a $350 water heater that you might be able to get at Home Depot. Yeah. You're talking about a $800 to $1.2 million project, because you've got to take the wall down. You have to remove all this stuff. You have to retrofit. You have to, like I said, I fake it pretty well. So as we go through, and so that's why these things are big ticket items, and they're not wants, they're needs. Because if I don't have hot water, I can't clean dishes. We can't worry about hygiene. If I don't have hot water, I don't have heat. And so it becomes this necessity of pieces. And so I know it's tough. Feels like, we jokingly say, like, every time I turn around, he's coming asking for money, but everything is on the big back end, because one of the things, talk real quick about this grant that we got with the generator, the emergency generator, because that's been fascinating. Because it's not always asking for stuff. Sometimes there's chances to give back.
Right.
And this is one of those things.
Yeah, so when I first started, I was approached by the Town of New London and their emergency management director to work with them to help establish this building here. The SAU is the Town of New London's emergency shelter. So with working with Homeland Security and the state of New Hampshire, we were able to obtain a grant to get us a full building generator.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so over the last couple months, it's been kind of fun to see right outside my office window all the work that's led to us getting that generator. And just this week, we were able to test it for the first time. So
that's huge.
It's been great, just in time for winter. So really excited to have that in place and take advantage of that grant.
Having lived through the ice storm, right? It's so significant, important.
And not even a flicker in the office. The changeover was instantaneous.
That is wonderful.
Which is so, if things were to happen, we're still able to run the businesses of things. And obviously then it's always as an emergency site in case of a disaster. Again, it's giving back to the community, as it should be.
Right. So it almost sounds, that's a gift. That's wonderful. And your job is layered. You're playing whack-a-mole, right, as problems come up, right? Trying to solve that problem. But then you're also looking toward the future. Mm-hmm. And that's, do you do that in conjunction with your superintendent, assistant superintendent, and staff? But that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, and I think it's great, when we talk about all these projects, the implementation of new boilers and things like that, it's also an opportunity. It's something that we have to do, but it's an opportunity for us to be more sustainable. For example, at the high school, when we switched over our boilers, we were able to see a huge savings when it came to our propane costs. So little things like that really add up. Switching to LED lighting at some of our schools, we were able to save a good amount of kilowatt hours throughout the district. So projects that we're almost forced to do have, kind of two different areas of return, sustainability and keeping us going.
Okay, a minute left, Sean. What do you see with the future for facilities?
From my seat, and I'll keep it short, I think a lot of focus, as we get in, there's been a lot of emphasis on green technologies, on carbon neutral, and hearing that a lot. So as we look at programming and planning for the future, I know those have been the conversations that we've had. I do caution folks, they want to see those things now, and until we have this facility study done, I refuse to spend a bulk of taxpayer money on something that we might have to move or tear down that doesn't go long term. We want to build it once and build it right. That'll be for me.
And I think, just making sure that we're able to have these facilities open and conduct what we do here on a daily basis. And I think there's a lot of work that we need to do, and it's a really exciting time and an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
It's encouraging. Yeah,
We've
really
got
is.
such great teammates.
Yeah.
So thanks so much
Yeah.
for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate you
great.
being on the
Great.
team.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Brett Pare, our facilities manager. I did it.
Yeah.
Said it correctly this time.
You got it that time.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining us. And coming up, we'll be speaking with Michael Bessette and getting a debriefing on that deliberative session.
Yep, a really good, exciting opportunity to really kind of talk about something that just happened that was poignant. And again, like we talked about earlier, just an amazing experience.
It was incredible.
So can't wait to
We'll
break
talk
that
more
down.
about it. Stay with us on Cougar Chronicle. Welcome back to Cougar Chronicle, and boy, did I learn a lot about our facilities.
Yes.
Really, and you know, the middle school is new to me, and it's not new anymore.
No,
So-
it's our newest old building.
Exactly.
And as we look at some of the things, there are challenges that we have in all of those buildings. And hopefully, as we've talked about the long-range facility study, we'll be able to provide some answers, because we're going to have to possibly make some tough decisions.
Absolutely, and I got some, which was a better understanding.
Yeah.
Now, I have to tell you, I was so amazed at that deliberative session.
my goodness.
Regardless of the side that anyone came out on, or it was the turnout, I've never seen anything like it in all the years. For
We-
1,500 people?
Well, 1,500 people voting, but there were well over 2,000 people in the building. We were on the cusp, from my understanding, that we almost breached the capacity of the building.
Now, this is the high school.
Yeah, we're talking about the high
and-
school. So we were in 4, auditorium capacity, cafeteria capacity, the library, there's many different names for that, but
Right.
the old school, we calls the library, was at capacity. And then obviously in the main gym where we had really the main action was taking place, was just absolutely filled with, and just the attitude and the feeling. I mean, hearing the stories, and you know, if you were one of the folks that had to wait a while on either 89 or all the way back to the middle school, we appreciate them coming and being
so
part
much.
of that thing.
And also, I'd like to thank everyone for the civil discourse. There was no name calling. There was no accusations. People expressed opinions
Yes.
without being nasty and mean. I was so proud of our community.
Well, the old government teacher in me loves the participatory government that we saw, and this is
Yes.
that direct democracy that we
It
hoped
really
our
was.
kids to be part of. And everybody was, and again, your belief structure is what you believe, as we
Right.
get that. And there's no judgment and things like that. But everybody was so well-spoken and so articulate, and especially we looked at some of our younger students. We had that one young man that did just a great job.
Oh, I just
And high
wanted
school
to, I want
kids
to hug
stepping
him.
up.
I know.
It was just impressive.
wonderful.
My wife was there, as she should be, as a voting member of the community. And when we walked away, she and I kind of had talked a little bit, and she said she'd never seen anything like that.
Yes.
Because that kind of opportunity to interact together and interface with the board and about the budget that doesn't exist in Missouri.
It was
and so
amazing.
it's so special.
Now, we need some help debriefing, and I understand you've brought in the expert.
Oh well, he'll jokingly say maybe he's not the expert, but I always love conversation with Michael Bessette, our assistant superintendent. And Michael and I have really, obviously, as we work hand in hand on stuff,
You do.
the ability to kind of say, okay, you know, the joke, okay, so what, now what? He's heard this from me before. So we've had the deliberative. Now, what are our next steps? How are we gonna move forward and get some of these things going? So. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Michael. Happy New
Always a
Year.
pleasure.
I am no expert, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I know.
But I will say this, you know, I thought the experience of going through the deliberative session that we had this past weekend was utterly remarkable, but it also aligns with what I think we've been talking about both in our work here, but also throughout the state with other superintendents, having discussions about how do we start to work with people when they have really differing opinions about how this job called public education really needs to occur. And you know, what we're living in this world right now, if you haven't figured it out, I know we talk about it all the time, but we live in this world where people are no longer able to just take on a perspective or an idea without villainizing or victimizing or whatever the
Weaponizing,
word.
all of this, right, exactly.
The other party. And if we don't get our way, all of a sudden it becomes an ad hominem attack on the person, right? And we've got to move beyond that. I mean, John and I, as we were talking about earlier, John and I fully understand the impact of the tax rates and the impact on our community. We spend an awful lot of time talking about what that impact looks like and how are we going to manage that impact on our constituents, who range from people who are very wealthy to people who are not very wealthy within our communities, right? That's important, because what's been happening, and it's happening throughout our state, is that people are really trying to find solutions, but they're doing it sometimes in very aggressive ways. They're using that name calling, they're not looking at facts, and people on both sides of the coin don't want to talk with one another. We got to change that narrative, and I was appreciative, I assume John was as well, that when people came to those microphones and they're sharing out, they're holding us accountable. They're asking us to use the systems in play, our MBC, our board,
Right.
Our own judgment as administrators, to bring forth the best budgets that we can. But in the same breath, they were talking about the state's responsibilities and the multitude of lawsuits, 2 lawsuits that the state is looking at right now, and the gamesmanship that may be occurring throughout our state about changing certain laws or policies around standards that provide people the opportunity to reduce taxes, but at the same time, reduce quality of experience.
Now, Michael's, in my past career, media, right? And we had been covering education funding since the late 80s and the inequities, right, here in New Hampshire. So having that brought up again and again, and now even changes recently, it's not just the district, it's the state, and it's hard to figure all that out.
It is, and the hardest part is people want education to be a part of their lives in some capacity. Everybody does, right? We all know that there's a value to education. I think people disagree fundamentally as to what that value is and how it should impact their day-to-day, right? For me, I've always approached it as public education is the great equalizer. It can take anybody from any role, any place, and you give them the foundations to be anything from a successful military career person to the President of the United States to an agricultural, it doesn't matter. It allows them that journey to do what they want to do. There are unfortunately a number of people who don't see it that way, and what they see it as is more of a burden. We want to do the absolute minimum to ensure that we're doing what we have to do, but we don't want to do more than that. Anything above that is on the backs of the parent, right? And so there's going to be a difference of opinion, especially when the state continues to look at how to downshift costs and responsibilities from mental health to education to just about everything, to the local property tax payer.
Well, and the district itself has a number of the mandates. There were some comments about, when people had gone through school and what they were paying 20 years ago.
Sure.
And I think that their reality is 100% accurate. But I also want to point out that there has been a number of statutorial changes that fall to the district that don't always have dollars that go behind. So you have to, coming from Missouri, we had to do so many screenings for dyslexia like we do here. There's so many things that have to be put in place that there's not always dollars that say how to pay for it, just that you have to do it.
That's significant to
And
know
that-
that
and
changes must be
difficult.
made, but we're not giving you the support to do
And
that.
so the job of educator, the job of principal, and the job of assistant superintendent has evolved so much that we've gotten away from the simplicity of reading, writing, arithmetic of the 60s and 70s into, now the districts, when we see the increase in the number of special needs students and the mental health challenges and number of families that have their own obstacles trying to overcome. So now we try to provide those social work pieces in place, as will be a conversation that we're going to have in the near future with some of our folks. It has changed the role of what schools have become, and how do we pay for those things? And the other problem that we start running into as well is private sectors have figured out that a lot of the skills of the people that we have in place, we can use them. And if I have a business, I can increase the price of something a couple of dollars or whatever to be able to bring those people in. The only way for us to increase salaries is to increase taxes. And so those are the things that we get into. And obviously we know that I don't want to be elbow deep in somebody's pocket. We want to make sure people feel, it may not necessarily feel good, is not the right way to describe it, but at least have a clear understand
right.
what it is we're doing with their money.
So you're talking to a retired person, right?
Yes.
So suddenly your income is fixed. And you go into the grocery store and you say, oh, wow, look at that. It's very different than it was, 5, 10 years ago. That being said, I think that information and being informed piece is key. The message I heard out of that meeting was, come to meetings, right?
Yes.
Come to NBC meetings, come to school board meetings and make your opinion known. Will that help?
I think it does help. Unfortunately, it doesn't occur much. And you know, we've opened up the doors for public participation in the meetings by Zoom, and we'll get a handful of individuals who
NBC
regularly
meetings
attend.
too? I can
NBC
go to
meetings
oh,
as well.
wow.
Yes. So
Okay.
NBC and school board meetings are both televised through Zoom. It's always posted. Folks can get that
Perfect.
information right off of our website. But the honest answer is that it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes investment. And unfortunately, we live in a society that sometimes kind of put those things about this impact to the side until it really comes home to roost. That may be too late. And this might be a shining example of that. And when you show up at the deliberative and you're just learning about what that set of circumstances are that create that impact on that tax bill, you're a little late to the game. It would be really wonderful if we could get that to occur a little bit earlier. One of the things that we also do is we live in a kind of a passive society today, and we've been struggling with this for years with communication, is do we bring the information to you or do you come and get it? Right, and so we try to do both. We
That's
put
a
up
tough
information.
balance, huh?
Yeah. Well, we've talked about communication
Yeah.
in the past, and how do we really, lighthouse that information and get those things to people frequently? Because what's happening is decisions are getting made, and along those same lines, we budget earlier than other districts. And part of that is the basis of the charter and things of that, which is its own unique item. And so trying to get folks to understand that by the time they get the information in late December or January, it's too late.
That's right.
Decisions have already been made. We'll start these conversations in April.
That's
for
true.
the 26,
That you really,
27
yes, that's
school
very
year.
true, isn't it?
And
Yes.
so as we present these things, all of this information is nothing more than a phone call away or an email, because everything that we do, we're more than happy to provide that, because it's the rights of the citizens to know.
And I really, no, we have an innate bias because this is a show in which we are all here because we support the district, but we also understand the needs of the citizens
Yes.
and residents. That being said, I was so encouraged by hearing so many citizens stand up and say, this is our future. Please let us educate our children. Let us do it in the best way we can, and we will consider your needs, but let us help your children.
Yes.
It was pretty amazing.
I look forward to the day when we have a lot of people showing up. So many, in fact, that we don't have enough seats in that KPDC, so that when the public is actually invested, they're invested early, wanting to see what we're doing and having the ability to ask us questions without accusation, but just really ask the question. Why do you choose to do it the way that you're doing it? Is it a choice? Is it an obligation? Help us to understand is probably the most effective phrase that has ever been, crafted in the universe. Help me to understand.
It's help me. That's a
And we
great
want
phrase.
we want those things to happen. The board meetings are involved, and it's not. The district has never had anything to hide, but we need people to engage, because I can't go door to door
That's right.
to do it.
Though I know you would if you could.
If it was
You could say,
impossible,
yeah.
we'd try it.
30 seconds left. Michael, what do you think the best message is as we post-deliberative session?
Thank you. Thank you for caring enough about public education. Whether you were pro or con against whatever the budgetary issues and the caps were, thank you for investing yourself in understanding why the decisions were being made the way that they were, at least at the deliberative.
That's a great message.
That's why we bring him back every time.
That's right. And well, get set. You're in the hot seat. Coming back with questions for the superintendent.
Can't wait.
Michael, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're grateful. We're grateful. And we'll be back with those questions coming up. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to Cougar Chronicle, and it is now my favorite time of the show.
Love this part.
I do, for a lot of reasons.
Well, I get that.
And really, the
Yeah.
biggest reason is because it gives us a really big chance to lift that veil.
And I'll be honest. I mean, I joke about, we look at going, oh no, but any chance to talk and brag about the district,
Yeah.
and to me, honest questions deserve honest answers.
They do. And let me tell you, this was one of those items that came up, and I haven't even given out my email, and I'm getting the questions now.
Well,
to ask you.
People are digging in.
They are digging in.
Either they don't want to tell me because they're afraid I'll load the questions.
No way. No,
but even any way we get the questions is important to get the questions.
And this one I thought was really, I was so grateful someone sent it in. It was about Pare School. It was a recent story they had seen on another media outlet. outlet. And the question is, what do parents and students need to do in light of a Pare school breach to make sure their private information is safe?
All right. Well, first thing we got to talk about is we got to talk about what happened. And so what our understanding is that Pare School is what we call our LMS, our learning management system, and that's where parents you do your registration, you go look for grades, you get all that reporting and all that information in place there. And so when we talk about things like that, our understanding was the Pare School had a data breach. Our concern, anytime there's a data breach, obviously we have a twofold concern. One is our students and their personally identifiable information, Social Security numbers, birth dates, addresses, all the things of that nature. Indications that we got was that none of our students' personal identifiable information had been accessed and had been sent out. On the other hand, then the other piece of the coin is our staff. And what we did find out, and just so I have the notes, initial investigation shows that the staff personally identified information was taken. First and last name, school email address, the home phone could be made possibly a home, like a cell number, and then also the physical address for current staff and potentially some previous staff members as well. So when we look at that, our understanding, we don't keep Social Security numbers of our staff on the Pare School site, nor your birth date, as you know, for things like applying for credits and things like that.
That's right.
Those are the kind of the things that we don't. So our understanding is that has not been, we don't keep it on there, so it couldn't have been accessed. So a lot of information, it could be inconvenient, like as much as getting the junk phone call or the mailers or pieces like that. So I know Pare School has worked with CyberSteward to negotiate potential ransom. This is information we've gotten from different groups, although at the time we don't know if any ransomware, because this is not just a Kearsarge problem, this is a Pare School problem. And so there are a number of big companies that operate under these learning management systems, so schools could use a multitude of different systems. And I'm sure when you were putting grades, it looked a lot different than the thing that we're doing now. So this is affecting multiple districts. And by the time this airs, we will have already identified, we'll have sent this email out to parents, we'll have confirmation of information going out to our staff. So that way, you know, it was not a thing that the Kearsarge district did. Our understanding that this was a data breach. Yes, this was a nationwide data breach from our company. And I would say the worst part about this is, as you all have known, that this is happening more and more frequently. So we always want to make the suggestion, I'm not a financial person, although I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express one time. Always pay attention to your credit reporting and looking for any kind of thing there. You know, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And so that's the kind of pieces that we always make those suggestions. Again, we have no indication that any of our students' personally identifiable information has been accessed, but we do know those things that I mentioned, our staff's names, their numbers, their school email address, which you can get on our school website and get everybody's school email address, and then their physical address is the only thing that we can, that Pare School has told us, and there's no reason to believe that that's going to change anything in the future, because we don't keep those things about our staff on there. We have a whole separate system that's an intranet built in our system to maintain those records.
Well, good, and thank you for that, because that's important stuff. You know, we all get compromised here and there.
It happens. It's happening more and more frequently. You know, so but you always want to let people know, if you think it might be breached, change your password.
That's right.
Change your challenge question. You know, make those adjustments.
Check that app, right?
And make sure that we do that.
Exactly.
And there are websites now. I know even Google with Gmail, if you have a Gmail account, it'll tell you that things have been compromised and remind you to change your password. So it's out there. AI at its finest.
AI once again comes up in our discussion. Well, thank you for joining us on our January show. This was a good one.
Yes.
Thank you for all the incredible information.
Oh my gosh.
And coming up next show, one of my favorite educators is going to be with us, Sandy Nelson.
my goodness.
Then we'll find out about what's going on in the field of social work.
Yes.
And I understand you're introducing a new segment.
We got an interesting little play on some stuff with our good friend, Mr. Michael Bessette, our assistant superintendent. As always, he brings the heat and brings such great, deep conversations, and we always look forward to having him.
And just a reminder, you can see Cougar Chronicle on the first Thursday of every month. You can see Thursday and Friday at noon and 7 p.m. Well, we wish you a very happy new year, and we look forward to many more spending more time with you.
Always right here on the Cougar Chronicle.
morning, everybody. My name's Allison Maston. I'm the school board chair. I live in the town of Wilmot. I'd really like to thank you guys for coming today to the 2025 deliberative session. In 15 years on the board, I've never seen this many people, and I really hope this can continue from here on forward, because it's very important, no matter what we're talking about, that we have community support in everything that we do. And I know we're all here today because we care about our 7-town community for whatever reason, but we all care, and it's very important to care about our future. The first settlers came to our country with a vision of self-determination. They created the New England Town Meeting, giving the community a say in matters that were important to all. 400 years later, meetings such as today's remain the heartbeat of American democracy. Direct democracy succeeds when the community takes an active role. Today and throughout the year, your voices guide us as we provide the best possible education for our students. So on behalf of the entire school board, I sincerely want to thank you for being here today. And I do know that a lot of people had to change their schedules, had to get babysitters. I really want to thank the New London Outing Club and any other organization that rearranged game schedules and practice schedules for today so that everybody who wanted to could be here. I do have 2 school board members who are retiring from the school board this year, and I'd just like to thank them and recognize them for their service. Ben Cushing, who is one of the New London reps, has served as on our district school board, representing the town of New London for 9 years. Ben has also served on the Facilities, Finance and Audit, and Transportation committees. Thank you, Ben, for your thoughtful insight and commitment to our district. I would also like to recognize Kyle Lombard. Kyle has served for 3 years on our school board representing the town of Sutton. Kyle has also served on the Facilities Committee. Thank you, Kyle, for your time, dedication, and service to the Kearsarge Regional School District.
Please announce yourself and let us know what town you're from.
Yes, Polly Lowe, Newbury.
Thank you.
I find when I go to vote in March, I really don't have a vote because I am offered 2 options which are exactly the same. So therefore, if I want to vote no, I just don't vote. I am on the Newbury Budget Committee, and we penny pinch every single thing for essential services: fire, police, ambulance, roads. And I find when it comes to the school budget, I have absolutely no input besides the person I elected to the Municipal Budget Committee. And she, fortunately, does her due diligence and questions some of the things in the budget, unlike all the other reps. So my question is, where's the transparency, and how can we, as tax-paying individuals, get more involved in what's happening with the school budget? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll turn it to any member of the school budget that wishes to respond, or the Municipal Budget Committee. Go ahead.
I'm going to speak to this, and I'm sure others might speak after. But the first thing I want to address is the way that our budget system is set up is determined by our district charter. And the last time that charter was altered was in 1997. And that is how we determine how many ballots there's going to be, how many votes. The Municipal Budget Committee and the school board work very hard together in a collaborative process for many, many weeks in the fall at meetings, at budget hearings, to try to come up with the budgets that we feel are the most responsible for our students to get the best education and for the taxpayers. The Municipal Budget Committee has had budgets in the past that are not the same as a school board budget. However, recently we've been working much more closely together, and that just hasn't happened because they've agreed, after having their own budget hearings and people come to speak, on what we propose as a budget. It's not an arbitrary number. The Municipal Budget Committee doesn't just say, oh, sure, we're going to go with the school board budget. They work really hard, and they're basically the watchdog of our budget, and they go through it line by line in their own hearings to determine if they agree with it or if they feel like it should be a different number. I do know, because I did sit on the Municipal Budget Committee very many years ago, they're not going to arbitrarily just pick a lower number to pick a lower number. They trust in what the school board and the administration has asked for, And they trust that that's what's needed for the best education of our students, who are going to be the future of our community. The district taxpayers can be involved at the beginning. All of the hearings and the budget school board meetings are open to all public. They're all publicly noticed. They're on Zoom. Anybody can come to any of those meetings and speak and ask questions, give your concerns. You do have a say in the process. Yes, when it comes to the ballot, you do have to choose the budgets that are presented, but you have a say in the process way before that. And to be honest, we don't get very many people at those meetings, and I would, based on today, I really hope that next year during our budget process, all of you show up and give your opinions and help us figure it out to make it best for the community, because we need all the input we can get.
I'm Bob Wright. I'm from Sutton. My question, I have two questions. One, the cost per student, what is that under this current budget? And two, how does that compare with regional school districts in the area?
Thank you for your question. Anyone wish to respond?
Next year's budget won't be calculated until the end of August, because I have to know what our final numbers are when the budget happens, if you will.
Introduce yourself first.
John Forney, superintendent, apologize. When you look at the overall budget, basically we take the whole budget and then the number of students we have on October 1st, which is that, they call it an average daily membership rate. And then that gives us that $32,000 number, which is what we've had overall. So that's the total cost for comparatively. As far as, I can't tell you that we've done a deep dive on how that compares comparatively to other districts at this time.
Thank you for your answer.
With all due respect, you know exactly what the petition article are asking for. It's saying it's 27. And you cannot give me an approximation of what that is. I think that's pretty important, and I'm really disappointed.
Hold on, Bob. Thank you.
30.
Go ahead.
I could answer it per the school district's attorney.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
I will.
Go ahead.
Stephanie Spalding, Newbury, New Hampshire. Per attorney Barbara Lothman, that represents the school district, she has written to me, I was able to reach the business administrator. This year's operating budget divided by the October 2024 ADM is $33,720 per student.
You're up next, sir.
Thank you. I'm David Bates from Warner, parent, and I would like to disabuse the audience of some of the falsehoods the previous speaker just said. As a parent, I've never had trouble finding out what's being taught in classrooms. My kids are not being indoctrinated by anyone. And the town of Newbury spends 4 times per citizen what the town of Warner does. So if you have trouble in Newbury, I would look at your town government. And I'll just say that I watch a kid before school because his mother needs to get down to Manchester to get to work. I watch a kid after school because his parents are working. Both of those kids need special services. My kids have needed special services in the past. Cuts in the budget fall first on kids that need special assistance to stay at grade level in math and English. Cuts to the budget fall on kids that are struggling at home in bad environments. Cuts to the budget fall on the kids that need it the most. I was on the budget committee at one point in the past, and I can tell you that the budget committee having its own budget line on the ballot is the leverage the budget committee has in its negotiations with the school board. The fact that they end in the same place is because they have bargained with each other. And I would just say the budget committee from Newbury, who this year voted or proposed a 3% increase in the budget, and then signed a petition for a 17% decrease in the budget next year, needs to do a little more diligence, and if she can't, she should resign.
The business of the meeting, except for me announcing the results. You have done your job today. Thank you. I'm also told that results will be put on the website as well, but if you spent all this time, an extra 10 minutes, you may know. Stay tuned, folks. Thank you again for coming out. It was great to see the